It was an ordinary evening on the research station orbiting the ice planet Thylar 7. I had spent the day cataloging mineral samples from the newly discovered ice caverns, the cold seeping through my spacesuit despite the station's climate control. My routine was monotonous, but comfortable. That is, until she appeared. At first, I thought I was imagining it. A flicker of movement beyond the station's observation deck drew my eyes, and there she was, a girl standing outside in the vacuum of space, seemingly unharmed. Her translucent skin glimmered like the ice below, her eyes reflecting an ethereal light, and her hair floated as if underwater. I froze, unable to comprehend what I was seeing. She had no suit, no tether, nothing to protect her from the vacuum. Yet she hovered there, just beyond the thick, reinforced glass, staring directly at me. Hello, I said, unsure why I even tried. Her eyes widened, not in fear, but in something I couldn't place. Curiosity? Recognition? Then, she raised a hand, and a small panel of the observation window slid open with a hiss. Without thinking, I unlatched the emergency airlock. "Wait!" I shouted.
She didn't hesitate.
She stepped through, landing on the deck with a grace that seemed impossible for a human. The station's alarm blared, and I ran toward her, half expecting the life support sensors to fail. Instead, she smiled. The casual comment. The first days were strange. She didn't speak, not in any language I knew. Instead, she moved with deliberate gestures, almost communicating through a kind of dance. I tried to introduce myself, to explain who I was, but she merely mirrored my motions, a playful mimicry that sometimes made me laugh despite the tension. It was during one of these days that I said it, casually without any thought. "You know, you could probably survive outside on your own. You're different." The words left my mouth in a casual tone, more as an observation than a comment. But the reaction I received was nothing short of shocking. She froze mid-step, her eyes locking onto mine with a sharp intensity that made my stomach churn. Slowly, her hand rose, not in a greeting, but as if to shield herself. A soft, almost musical hum began emanating from her throat, resonating in the metal walls of the station. The hum grew, vibrating through the floor, and I felt it in my chest. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed. It wasn't a normal laugh. It was high-pitched, melodic, almost otherworldly. And it wasn't just sound. It carried emotion, a mix of relief, astonishment, and something else I couldn't name. "You think I'm fragile?" She finally spoke in perfect English. Not like a translation device, but her own voice, crisp and unearthly. I blinked. I didn't mean." "You didn't mean," she echoed, her voice rising in pitch and falling in waves like the tides of an alien ocean. "You said it casually. You underestimated me. And yet you were right. In some ways." I had no idea how to respond. Every instinct screamed at me to step back, but I was rooted to the floor. "You think me fragile," she repeated. "And for that, I respect you." Understanding her world. Over the next few weeks, our bond grew in strange, uneven ways. She introduced herself as Elora, an alien of the Varelian race, a species that could manipulate energy and survive extreme environments without protection. She had been sent to observe humanity, though I had been told by the higher-ups that no alien presence had been detected near Thylar 7. Elora's world was unlike anything I had imagined. She could sense the energy in machines, in ice, in the cells of living creatures. When she touched a panel, I watched in awe as circuits rearranged themselves, repairing damage I hadn't noticed. She could generate fields that made objects levitate, heal injuries, and even alter the station's climate systems with a wave of her hand. But she was curious about humans. She watched me with a quiet intensity, noting every action, every word, every hesitation. Our interactions became a mix of teaching and learning. I showed her how to use the station's equipment, while she showed me how to read the vibrations of energy around us, something I still barely understood. One evening, as we floated through the zero-gravity lab, she looked at me with an expression that I couldn't read. "Why did you say it?" she asked. I frowned. "Say what?" "That you thought I was different. Fragile, even." I hesitated. It had been casual, a comment and observation. But now, it seemed to carry weight I hadn't foreseen. "I don't know," I admitted. "It just came out. I didn't think it would matter." Her eyes softened, and she drifted closer, the energy around her pulsing gently. "It mattered," she whispered. "It made me see you. Not just as a human, but as someone who notices, who thinks, who doesn't assume everything about me." I could feel my heartbeat quicken. There was a moment of silence, heavy and charged with something neither of us wanted to name. The mission threat. Our peaceful coexistence didn't last. The station sensors picked up an approaching fleet, human, armed, and suspicious of alien activity. Protocol dictated that any unidentified life forms be captured or neutralized. I realized that Elora was now in danger. I tried to explain the situation to her, but she already knew. "I can evade them," she said simply. "But they may come inside the station. You must be ready." We worked feverishly to reinforce the station's defenses. Elora taught me how to manipulate the energy shielding, how to reroute power, how to create temporary barriers that could withstand weapon fire. All the while, her eyes occasionally met mine, as if gauging my understanding and my courage. When the fleet finally arrived, their ships hovered above the Ilar 7, sending a beam of light toward our station, scanning, searching. The walls vibrated, alarms blared, and I felt the weight of the situation crush me. "You can't hide me forever," Elora said, her voice calm amid chaos. "But you can choose to stand with me." "Of course," I said, feeling my nerves steady. "We'll face them together." The confrontation. The intruders breached the station's outer hull. I watched as Elora's abilities turned our environment into a maze of energy and force fields. Machines floated, barriers shimmered, and the intruders were slowed, disoriented, utterly unprepared for the aliens' power. And yet, she didn't attack. Instead, she hovered in front of me, her energy field wrapping around both of us like a cocoon. "You spoke casually," she said, her tone almost teasing. "But you gave me courage. You saw me truly. And for that, I will protect you." I stared at her, realizing the full weight of what she had said. The casual comment I had made, offhandedly, had sparked something profound. Not just curiosity, but trust, respect, and a connection neither of us fully understood yet. When the intruders tried to breach the main chamber, Elora released a pulse of energy that sent them tumbling backward, uninjured but incapacitated. "They are confused," she explained. "They do not understand what they see. We must leave before they regroup." The escape. We prepared the station's escape pod, loading the essentials. Elora didn't need protection, but I did, and she insisted on staying with me until we were safely away from the fleet. As we launched into space, I couldn't help but look at her, still awed by her presence, still shaken by the events that had unfolded. "Why did you laugh the first time?" I asked, referring to my casual comment weeks ago. She smiled, her eyes glimmering like starlight. "Because you said it casually. You didn't expect a reaction. And yet, it mattered. You made me feel seen in a way no one else ever has." I swallowed hard. "I didn't mean to." "I know," she interrupted gently. "And yet, it changed everything." As the stars stretched into lines outside the pod's window, I realized something profound. Sometimes, the smallest words, the most casual statements, could ripple across galaxies in ways we could never anticipate. A new beginning. We drifted toward an uncharted sector of space, Elora teaching me to read energy patterns, to understand the subtle vibrations of life around us. In return, I shared stories of Earth, of humanity's history and dreams. And through it all, there was an unspoken bond, a connection forged not in grand gestures or heroic acts, but in a single, casual comment that had changed the course of both our lives. One night, as we floated in the pod, she looked at me with that same intensity that had startled me weeks ago. "You speak casually," she said, "but sometimes it is in those casual words that the truth lies." I smiled, understanding fully for the first time. Then maybe I should be more careful with what I say. She laughed softly, the sound like wind chimes in zero gravity. "Or maybe," she replied, "you should just keep speaking casually because you never know which words will matter most." And in that moment, I realized that our journey was just beginning, one that would take us beyond the boundaries of human understanding, beyond fear, beyond the stars. And it all started with a simple, casual statement.